Today, I'm going to go over the 20 levels of Pokemon battling, starting with the easiest and ending with the hardest. So, here we go. Also, this video is sponsored by the Ridge wallet, but we'll get into that at the end of the video. Alright, let's start with the easiest Pokemon battle that you will ever encounter, and that is the Poochyena from Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. And, to put it simply, it is impossible to lose this battle, because once your starter Pokemon gets to a low enough HP, the Poochyena or Zygarde will simply run away. So even if you try to lose this battle, you couldn't. It's just not possible. Even a fish could win this battle. Next up, we have Youngster Tyler from Route 204 in the Sinnoh region. And I kid you not, this Youngster only has a Magikarp with the move Splash. So pretty much the only way you could ever lose this battle is if you ran out of PP on your moves and then somehow struggled to death. But even then, I feel like Struggle might just KO the Magikarp before your Pokemon even faints. So yeah, this is a really hard battle to lose. Next, we have the notorious Youngster Joey from Route 30 in the Johto region, who is the first trainer that you will ever battle in the game. And as you would expect, the first battle in the game is not that challenging at all, especially with Youngster Joey's Rattata, who isn't even top percent. Yeah, it was actually confirmed that his Rattata has 0 IVs across the board, so it's a pretty simple battle. I would rate this as hard as battling a Fisherman with 6 Magikarp. It's pretty pathetic. Alright, now we're getting a little bit more challenging because for level 4, we have Bugsy. And Bugsy might be the worst gym leader of all time because this dude literally has a Metapod and Kakuna on his team. And the only attacking moves that these two Pokemon have are Tackle and Poison Sting, so they're pretty pathetic and easy to take down. The only saving grace that Bugsy has that may make this battle a little bit more challenging is his Scyther. But the only stab attacking move that Scyther knows is Fury Cutter, which starts with a base power of a mere 10 in Generation 2. So I guess if you're a newbie in Pokemon and are not aware that Fury Cutter doubles in power every time it hits consecutively, this could be a challenging battle. But honestly, I have my doubts because with Cyndaquil, you can just easily Ember it, with Totodile, you can just set up Rage, and with Chikorita, well, if you chose Chikorita, this battle goes from really easy to quite hard. So good luck with that. But nonetheless, it's a pretty simple battle. Alright, now we're going to jump in difficulty and start facing some challenging opponents. So, for level 5, we have Veteran Shaun from the Challenger's Cave in the Unova region. Now, I'm not even kidding, this might be the strongest random NPC trainer in all of Pokemon, because just look at his team. He is one of the few NPCs to have a team of 6 Pokemon, and along with that, they're all in their 60s. And when you compare these Pokemon with champions from previous games, they literally outlevel all of them. So you can say that this is a champion level battle. And these are not just random scrub Pokemon, they're actually pretty good choices for a competitive team, especially his Escadrill, which was arguably the best Pokemon from that generation. Though, with all of these things that are going for Veteran Shaun, what nerfs him is that the battle takes place in the post-game. And by then, the player is most likely pretty experienced with a champion level team of their own. So the battle itself might not be that challenging, but still, this duel is not for the faint of heart. Next up, we have Route 110 May from the Hoenn region, and this is without a doubt the hardest rival battle from any Pokemon game ever. Because first of all, the battle comes out of nowhere, so it's more than likely the player enters the battle with unhealed Pokemon. And then second of all of our teams are stacked. If the player chose Treecko or Mudkip, she'll have a Tiki Whelmer with the move Rollout, which can sweep pretty quickly. But more than likely if the player chose Torchic, she'll have a Shrimmer that will most definitely paralyze you, and then a Marshtomp which will annihilate everything. And what makes this Marshtomp so dang powerful is for the fact that it only has one weakness, which is the Grass type. And up to that point in the game, there are really no Grass type Pokemon that can go toe-to-toe with May's Marshtomp. So 9 out of 10 times the player will have to cheese it with neutral effective moves. And keep in mind, by the time Marshtomp is on the field, the player's Pokemon will probably be paralyzed by Shroomish, so the battle just becomes a lot more trickier taking down her starter. So yeah, May on Route 110 is a pinnacle of rival battles, and from here on out, the battles on this list just get more intense. For level 7, we have Brock from Pokemon Yellow, and I would say this might be the hardest gym battle of any Pokemon game ever. Because first of all, the player starts with a Pikachu, and looking at Pikachu's learn set, the only move Pikachu can use against Brock's Geodude and Onix is his Quick Attack. And like most Rock-type Pokemon, their defense stats are exceptional, so Quick Attack isn't going to do that much damage. So naturally, an experienced player will try to find other Pokemon to take on Brock with. But the issue is that there really aren't that many options. The only viable Pokemon can stand a chance against Brock is the Mankey that can be found on Route 22, but this still comes with a number of issues. For one, the only move that Mankey can use against Brock is his Low Kick, but as a physical move, it's not going to do that much damage. And for 2, if you put yourself back in the setting when Pokemon Yellow had just released in 1998, I highly doubt that one would figure out that they can even access Route 22, and then have the hindsight to catch Mankey for Brock and use Low Kick. So more than likely the player will just keep challenging Brock with their Pikachu until they eventually win. I know that's what I did back in those days, and I remember it being quite the challenge. So yeah, Brock in Pokemon Yellow is a formidable foe, and really hits new and seasoned players hard with this battle. Next, we have Red from Pokemon Gold and Silver, which I would say is slightly more challenging than Red from the remakes, but honestly, either of them could take the spot for level 8, and here I'll explain why. You see, the Generation 2 games are notorious for having an awful level curve, because the more the player progresses into the game, the wider the level gap becomes for the NPCs. And so with Red being the very last trend the player faces, the level curve becomes insane. Because as an example, just look at Blue's team, the last trend the player faces before they head to Mount Silver. His team consists of Pokemon in their late 50s, and by that time I would say about half of the player's Pokemon will be in their early 50s, with their start probably hitting 60. Now look at Red's team. All of his Pokemon are in their late 70s, along with his Pikachu who is hitting 80, which at that time was the highest level Pokemon any NPC ever had. So with this perspective, you can see how hard Red's battle is going to be just based on the game's level curve. It quite literally goes from 0 to 100. On top of that, in Generation 2, there were no abilities and a smaller pool of Pokemon and moves, so the player has a lot less options for defeating Red than one would have if they face a trainer like Cynthia in a later game, not to mention the lesser amount of competitive held items. Another aspect that would make Red very challenging is that he has a Snorlax, which at that time was the most dominant Pokemon of that generation. Now, luckily Red isn't running a Curse-like set, but having a Snorlax on his team is still no joke. And finally, just like Brock, putting yourself back in the era with no internet to look up strategies just created another dimension of difficulty. So from every angle, Red was just a beast, and definitely represents what a level 8 Pokemon battle is like. For level 9, we have the Onix from the wild area in Galar, and finally this giant snake is no joke. Now, I kid you not, the entire purpose of this Onix's existence is to demonstrate how powerful Pokemon can be in the wild area. And for new players, it is intended for this Onix to slap their booty. Even when the player is approaching the Onix, there's a note on the ground that warns the player to run away from the scary looking Pokemon. And then when the player encounters the Onix, it even says that you encountered a very strong looking Onix. So the game downright gives the player 2 warnings to not mess with this Pokemon. But if they decide not to listen, then they are in for a rude awakening. Because at this point in the game, your Pokemon are probably only level 10 or 11, and this Onix is a breathtaking level 26. So it's more than likely that your Pokemon are going to straight up get one-hit KO'd, since that is what Game Freak intended to happen. And honestly, the only way this battle is winnable is if the player gets extremely lucky. I mean, Onix missing every rock slide and getting critted by every attack lucky. But that is highly unlikely, so this battle is nearly unwinnable. Unless the player comes back later in the game and shows the Onix who's boss. But besides that, this battle is quite hard. Next, we have the Ultra Necrozma battle, and personally, this is one of the few battles that I've ever lost in a Pokemon game, and I'll explain why. First of all, at the very beginning of the battle, Necrozma is given a totem-like boost with +1 in every stat. And keep in mind that Ultra Necrozma already has one of the highest base stat totals of all Pokemon, the 7th highest to be exact. So it getting a stat boost before the battle even begins is kind of insane. Along with that, its move pool is also insane. It has Smart Strike, Dragon Pulse, Power Gem, and its signature move Photon Geyser. And Photon Geyser is a powerful move in itself because it ignores all nullifying abilities like Sturdy or Wonder Guard, and nearly all nullifying moves like Reflect and Light Screen. So this move alone is coming no matter what you do, and there's next to nothing that you can do to stop it. On top of that, its Psychic Dragon typing makes it resistant to Fighting, Fire, Water, Grass, Electric, and Psychic, which are all typings that are pretty prevalent in Pokemon. And finally, its ability Neuroforce boosts its super effective moves. So if your Pokemon happen to be weak to Steel, Dragon, Rock, or Psychic, you're going to have a tough time. So all around, Ultra Necrozma is a golly Pokemon, and most players who face it are going to have a difficult time. And even though it's an incredibly tough battle, what knocks it down a few levels is the fact that the player can cheese it pretty easily. All they need is a level 1 Zora, and boom, the battle's a guaranteed win. But I highly doubt one would figure that out in their first go, so I'm not going to punish Ultra Necrozma that much for it. Alright, for level 11, we have Zygarde from the Dynamax Adventures, which is no doubt the hardest Dynamax Pokemon to battle. Because to begin with, in Dynamax Adventures, the player isn't allowed to use their own Pokemon. They instead recruit Pokemon along the way until they face the final legendary Pokemon for a chance to capture it. So with Zygarde, the best Pokemon to recruit are going to be Ice-type Pokemon. But the issue is, there aren't that many viable Ice types out there. So more than likely, the player will have to face Zygarde with a neutral effective Pokemon. Another issue with Zygarde is that it changes forms when it reaches half of its HP, which not only boosts its already strong stats, but also partially heals it too. And then on top of that, Zygarde has access to a remarkable pool of max moves, like Max Quake, which raises the special defense stat, making it even harder for Ice types to damage it, and Max Wormwind, which weakens the party's physical attackers, making it even tankier. And then of course, it has access to its signature moves like Land's Wrath and Thousand Arrows, with the latter being able to hit flying type Pokemon. Oh, and to make matters worse, you only have 10 turns to take it down, or until your 4th Pokemon faints. So on top of Zygarde being an absolute tank while hitting hard, there's also a time limit. So yeah, overall this battle is just a headache, and can make even the most patient of Pokemon players rage. Alright, now we're entering the hardest of battles in Pokemon. So, for level 12, we have Volo from Legends Arceus. Now Volo is one of the reasons why I left out Cynthia for this video, because his battle is very similar to hers, but on steroids. Because to start things off, his team is stacked. He has a Y-type coverage and access to both strong and agile style type combat. And with how powerful his Pokemon are, him utilizing the Agile style can easily knock out a Pokemon in one multi-hit blow. But this is not even the start of it. What makes this battle truly one of the hardest is that he surprises the player by summoning a Giratina to continue the battle. And keep in mind, the player has no time to heal their Pokemon in between them losing to 6 Pokemon and summoning Giratina. So for the players that went in blind, this would be a major shock and would definitely catch them off guard. But it doesn't stop there, because once the player knocks out the Giratina will then change forms and then continue the battle for a second time. So quite literally Volo battles you with 8 Pokemon, which is in fact the most Pokemon that any NPC has ever battled with in Pokemon history. And truly that is what makes Volo's battle so dang hard, is for the fact that the Giratina comes out of nowhere and surprises the player not once, but twice. And that's basically it. That's why I consider Volo's battle to be a level 12 battle. But what could be harder than this? Well, you're about to find out. Next, for level 13, we have a wildcard trainer that I thought would be fun to put in this video, and that is the glitch trainer Agatha Ultima from the Generation 1 games. Now, to jump right into it, what makes Agatha Ultima a tough trainer to beat is for the fact that her Pokemon are above level 100. And not just level 100, but they are above level 200 with the capacity to reach even level 255. Yeah, if you didn't know, there's a glitch in the original games that allows Pokemon to level beyond 100 and go up to as high as level 255. And with Agatha Ultima, she actually has over 100 different Pokemon teams, and some of her teams consist of Pokemon that are level 255, and of course their stats are going to reflect their godly level. So if the player enters the battle against one of her best teams, which is normally a team full of level 205 glitched Pokemon, they're going to be at a severe disadvantage, and that should make this battle incredibly tough. Another factor to think about is that Agatha Ultima can actually lower your Pokemon's levels. Yeah, funny enough, when we were recording footage for this video, we went into the battle with all level 100 Pokemon, but if you notice, some of our Pokemon had dropped a few levels. So that is finally another hurdle the player has to go through in order to defeat Agatha Ultima. It is definitely a unique aspect for her battle. So yeah, this battle is insane, and definitely a test of battling skill. But it is not the hardest battle out there, so let's move on. Alright, for the second hardest level of Pokemon battling, we have the Fisher from Pokemon Stadium. Yeah, believe it or not, a Fisherman has one of the hardest battles in all of Pokemon, if not the hardest. Because to get right into it, his battle takes place in the Round 2 Pika Cup, which is a cup that only allows Pokemon from the levels of 15 to 20. But if you look at his Round 2 team, he has several Pokemon that should otherwise be impossible. Specifically his Dragonair, Golem, Alakazam, and Machamp. All of these Pokemon normally evolve in their 20s and even 30s, but somehow they were eligible for this cup. So Fisher is basically Lance, but on steroids when it comes to his cheated Pokemon team. And unfortunately, this is only the start of it. You see, in Pokemon Stadium, most players only play with Rinsel Pokemon, and when they enter a cup, their Pokemon are skewed to only the minimum level, in which this case would be level 15. But the computers on the other hand are given a 5 level leeway for their team. So for Fisher, he's going to have 2 level 15 Pokemon and then 1 level 20 Pokemon because of that 5 level leeway. And when you look at the stats between a level 15 and 20 Pokemon, the difference is pretty monumental. So not only does Fisher have impossible Pokemon, but he also has a 5 level advantage on you. Another aspect to this battle is that the Rinsel Pokemon are quote-unquote balanced, meaning that the Final Evolution Pokemon have better stats, but are nerfed with worse moves, while the non-fully evolved Pokemon naturally have lesser stats, but are buffed with better moves. So the player is going to be forced to use non-fully evolved Pokemon so they can utilize the most efficient moves, which makes this battle even more harder. Now let's get into the battle itself, because it is on another level. To start things off, if the Fisher chooses his Alakazam, the battle is basically over, because nothing is stopping the Pseudo Mewtwo Pokemon. To put into perspective on how powerful this Alakazam is, it can literally two-shot Chansey, the best special defense tank from the Generation 1 games. So the player will have to hope that he chooses his Dragonair, because he will always choose one of the two. But his Dragonair is incredibly difficult as well, and here's why. For one, it knows Dragon Rage, which is a move that always deals 40 damage. And at level 15, a lot of Pokemon don't even have 40 HP to take 40 damage to. So this is basically a guaranteed one-hit knockout move for Dragonair. And for two, it knows Thunder Wave and Wrap. And knowing how the Wrap mechanics work in Generation 1, where it can last forever, it makes this Dragonair incredibly annoying to deal with. And finally, to put the icing on the cake, the player isn't allowed to use any healing items during the battle, which makes the battle 10 times harder. So, to put it simply, this battle is insane, and honestly gaps Agatha Ultima big time. However, there is something even harder than this, and it happens to take place in the new Pokemon game Scarlet and Violet. So, let's continue. And finally, for the highest level of Pokemon battling, coming in at level 15, we have the Houndoom from Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, remember at the very beginning of this video for level 1, it was an unlosable battle? Well, for the final level for this video, this is an unwinnable battle, and that is against the Houndoom you encounter at the very beginning of the game. There is just no way to win this battle. You are essentially scripted to lose, so that the Legendary will come and rescue you. And that is why it is the hardest battle. So take that as you will. It is kind of a meme choice, so if you don't agree with it, then I would say Fisher for Pokemon Stadium is definitely the hardest. But if you want to embrace the meme, then this Houndoom is the hardest Pokemon to battle in any Pokemon game ever, crowning it as a level 15 Pokemon battle, which is pretty epic. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And there you go, 15 levels of Pokemon battling. And before we end it off, this video is sponsored by the Ridge Wallet. And man, this wallet is what I needed 10 years ago. Like literally, you see this football card? Yeah, this was my wallet from back when I was in high school, and I always found it annoying how humongous it was. And eventually, I swapped over to this wallet that was a lot smaller. But I'm telling you, if I knew about the Ridge Wallet, I would have definitely chosen it. Because just look at it in comparison to both my old wallets. It's a no-brainer. And with the Ridge Wallet, I love how discreet it is. It stores all my important cards very nicely, and on top of that, it has a money strap. So all my bills are secured without taking up a lot of room. And I also love how it looks. It's very simple and stylish, just what I'm looking for in a wallet. And Ridge even has a key case, which shows all my keys discreetly too. So no nosy pockets, which is awesome. So yeah, if you want to grab your own today or give it as a gift for the holidays, use my link down below in the description to get 40% off through December 22nd. Again, use the link ridge.com/Dobbs. And a big shout out to Ridge for sponsoring this video. Really appreciate it, guys. Hey, you want to see the levels of Pokemon protagonists? Well, I rate them all right here in this video. I think you guys will enjoy it. Just click the end card right here. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell.